So when you're selling an ad to a sponsor, you're not just selling the YouTube, you're selling kind of like a package.
My goal is to set a high bar, and I'd rather make less money than lower the bar.
How do you approach an audio-first podcast to be repurposed on YouTube?
The newsletter has a different value prop. The thing that I'm really excited about with newsletters is, one, that you just get so much data.
Are you still going to be sharing podcast-style interviews on YouTube?
You will listen to podcasts, I think, in 1 to 2 years, and you will be able to interrupt the podcast and ask questions yourself and get real-time answers.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, we got Chris Hutchins in the house. And I brought Chris. I get dozens of requests for people to come on the podcast every week. And Chris really stood out because he's just really crushing it with his marketing, quite frankly. His podcast has about 1.3 thousand views on investing. His YouTube channel, 20,000 subscribers. And I really want to talk about how we can convert that media into sales. What works, what doesn't work, why double down, why kill something. I think this is going to be really fascinating. I think really important when we're talking about some of these S-tier type of top of funnel stuff. So Chris, what's up?
How you doing? I'll only correct one thing. I think you said 1.3 million we did unique listeners last year. So
1.3 thousand reviews. And all my podcasters know how hard it is to get a review.
I know. We've done some giveaways to do reviews just to try to encourage people to do this thing that works well. I have another podcast I listen to. They do this gentleman's agreement. They're like, look, you guys are listening. Here's the agreement. I'm signing you up for it. You need to go write me a review. You need to go share it with a friend. I'm doing this every day for you. Do something for me. I haven't tried it in that perspective, but I have asked for reviews quite a bit.
What was the giveaway that you did?
We do an annual survey. And in the survey, we did a free flight to North America. We got some sponsors to give some gift cards. And we gave everyone a second entry. Fill out the survey, get an entry, and leave a review and a rating, get another entry.
Okay, I like that. So you actually got some sponsors, some vendors to actually donate their resources to that
I
giveaway.
put up the free flight to North America, but a couple of our sponsors put up a few other things. And honestly, it was a great deal for them because the amount we charge for an ad is less than what they put up in product. And we talked about their product when we talked about, hey, can you guys fill out this annual survey? We've got prizes from so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. So they got a free call out. So it was like a good kind of trade-off between the two. I think we both got value.
That's legit. Well, and I think that's one of the keys to sponsorships. You want to be able to track conversions. Is that something that you're doing when you have sponsors come on? Do you create a custom link so you can track how much traffic you're actually sending? Because I find like a lot of podcasting is both podcast and YouTube. Like I'll bring on a big client, a client that's getting millions of downloads, but they're not actually tracking where the traffic is going. They can't attribute where the traffic is coming from. Is that something that you focus on?
So attribution is super tough. So before my podcast, I worked at a company called Wealthfront where I sold my last startup to. And we were really sophisticated with attribution. And even with that, we found that for every person that signed up through the link of an advertiser, like a podcast, there were 3 people who signed up and said in like a little, how did you hear about us survey that they heard about us from a podcast, but that did not click the link that the ad said. So I've heard from brands I work with that the multiplier can be anywhere from like 1 to 4. So a 4X, 5X, 6X. If there's a really unique offer that you can really only get through that link, then maybe it's direct, everyone's being attributed, but it is not easy. And the more sophisticated companies these days are running a tracking pixel in the podcast and then comparing the IPs of the people that listen to the episode to the IPs of the people that go to their website so they can get a better look at conversion. But if you hear the podcast on your phone and you go on your computer, might not track the same way. So nothing is perfect with attribution and I'm trying, right? So all my links for brands that I work with go from allthehacks.com/8sleep/ Viore/Dram. So I actually see the traffic I'm sending them so I can get a sense of how my partnerships are performing, even if the brands I work with aren't sharing data back to me.
So when you're selling an ad to a sponsor, you're not just selling the YouTube, you're selling kind of like a package, YouTube, podcast, newsletter,
I'm actually
website.
not selling to YouTube. Right now, we do about 50 times the traffic on the podcast as we do on YouTube. And so doing YouTube based on the way YouTube works is not something that I put sponsor content in. So normally we have 5 ads per episode and we do it on the podcast. And then I just don't put the ads in the YouTube. Podcasting has a lot of technology that makes it easy for me to put 5 ads in and then after 90 days remove them. But once you put something in YouTube, it's there forever. And then YouTube has their own ads that you can run. So right now we don't put sponsor content or ads or anything like that into YouTube. But if YouTube were to grow more, we definitely would. Like I would say if it gets to be 10% of the traffic for content, we'll absolutely start doing it. But right now, the goal the last 3 or 4 months has been like, what can we do with YouTube if we put all of our energy behind it? And typically what I like to do is run these sprints of a couple months of let's go all in on YouTube, let's go all in on the newsletter, let's go all in on podcast growth and see if the ROI is there. Is the time and money I would put into growth worth it or not? And in some cases it is, and in some cases it's not.
We kind of talked about this a little bit before I hit record, and like I had mentioned, the best stuff happens before and after you hit record on a podcast. So I just feel like you want to kind of hit record as soon as possible. Pro tip to all you podcasters out there. But you mentioned that you're kind of taking a step back from YouTube. And I was kind of surprised. You got 20,000 subscribers on there. Some of your videos have over 250,000 views on them. Why are you taking a step back from YouTube?
I haven't found any consistency with what works in YouTube. And so I found that if I do better thumbnails, we get more downloads. But the biggest challenge for me with YouTube has been that I'll make a video and it'll get 100,000 views. And then the next week I'll make a video and it'll get 100 or 500 views. And one of the challenges with YouTube is I don't think YouTube knows what to do with content that is not made for YouTube and or is not similar to the next piece of content. So I'll do an episode on parenting, and then the next week I'll do an episode on travel, points, and miles, and then the next week I'll do one on health and fitness. And YouTube's like, we don't know what to do because the episode that takes off is all about money, and they're like, wow, people that watch money content, when we show a related video of Chris's, they click and they love it, and then the next week they do that, and they're like, they show a parenting video after a video about investing, and it does terribly, and YouTube hasn't figured out how to share our content. So that's one. And then 2, I think to really do well on YouTube, you need to make content for YouTube. And that means you can do one of 2 things. You can focus on YouTube as the primary channel. And a friend of mine, Jay Klaus, just released a course with his YouTube editor or producer, guy named Connor. And he put this thing together and it's like how to do podcasting for YouTube. So his model is he plans for YouTube and then releases it on audio. I plan for audio and then release it on YouTube. And I think that model, it's just inherently going to hinder your growth on YouTube. And a good friend of mine, a guy named Ramit Sethi, has a massive channel. And the videos where he releases his podcast on YouTube do well. But the videos where he makes like 15, 10-minute videos just organically designed from the ground up as YouTube content blow out of the water the podcast content. And so I'm not willing to do what I know it would take to do well on YouTube because I'm just not that interested in making another set of content. Like I like doing what we're doing right now, making a podcast, having a conversation. And if I've got to have people in person and cut it all fast and talk about, end of the world, doom and gloom kind of stuff that works really well on YouTube, like that's not what I want to do. And so I'm at a point in my life where I'm not going to do what it takes to grow if I don't enjoy what I'm doing. And so I'm going to try. My hack right now is I'm going to keep everything unlisted that doesn't fall in the kind of money, travel, points, miles, investing category, and then list all of those videos. And maybe if YouTube figures, oh, now all the content Chris is publishing is of one type, maybe it'll start to perform and work a lot better. So check in with me in a few months. And if things are working, maybe that will be my strategy.
So I mean, I want to flesh this out a little bit more because I think this is important, both as someone who's on YouTube, podcast. I have clients that are doing the same. It's basically what my agency has been doing for the past several years. Moving forward, are you still going to be sharing interview style, podcast style interviews on YouTube? Or is it just going to be that, hey, this is good, I'm going to help you save $10,000 in your taxes in this video, or by the end of this video, you're going to know how to leverage the best credit card to get the most travel points?
So the funny thing is, they're going to be titled like you just said, and the thumbnail will describe it as you just said, but the actual content will be a podcast episode. Now, going forward, I think next year you'll probably see about half of my podcasts be solo without a guest, not an interview, but they will primarily be created for an audio-only listener. So it'll be me talking to the camera like we're doing now, maybe sharing my screen a little bit, but the primary audience is still audio. And so because of that, I'm not going to create a podcast episode that you have to look at, because it would alienate 99% of my audience. So
what else do you do from an audio first standpoint, right? And quite frankly, I don't think you can be great at everything. To your point, it's just each platform in and of itself, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcasting, they all are down to a complete science. One of the reasons I do like doing the interview and helping clients with it, it's very easy to do it. You get on really high quality conversations. Like now when I see you at a conference, I'll be like, hey, what's up, Chris? You'll be like, hey, what's up, Margaret? So I like that, but it's also pretty easy to repurpose for all these different platforms, but extremely difficult to optimize for each platform. Because like you said, you kind of have to know what you're creating on the front end. So I'm curious from your perspective, someone who's doing millions and millions of downloads, how do you approach an audio first podcast to be repurposed on YouTube?
Honestly, this is something I even thought about building an agency around this, because I think the way to do it correctly might be to view the core piece of content not as the recorded interview, but as the knowledge. And so imagine if you record an interview with someone and you talk about leadership, hypothetical, and you could leverage LLMs like ChatGPT here. And you go to ChatGPT and you say, hey, take this 45-minute conversation on leadership and help me write a 15-minute script for a YouTube video on leadership. And I think that the right way to think about repurposing content is not, how do I take my recorded podcast interview and put it on YouTube, but how can I take the knowledge that was captured in my recorded podcast interview with a person on a topic and create content organically and natively for that platform. So if you want to put something out on Twitter or X, you could just take your podcast audio file and upload it on X, and it will probably not perform. And you could take the video and put it on X, and it might not perform. But you could grab like 3 really big insights and create a thread, and that will probably do better than those first 2 options. And so you're not publishing the raw form, you're pulling out something and creating something native for that platform. And YouTube, because a podcast interview and a video is similar, like the instinct is take the video of the interview and put it on YouTube. And I wonder if you take the content from the interview and create a YouTube organic native created video, which maybe doesn't have that guest, or maybe it cuts to a couple clips with the guest, to give some context, but it's mostly like a one-on-one video. I think you will have a lot more success than just uploading the interview. But if you wanted to upload the interview, then I would say you need a lot tighter editing. And because here's the thing, most podcast listeners are followers of the podcast. Most of the people that are listening to us right now on audio know you, right? And there's this crazy thing called, I think it's called in-ear localization. And there's been a lot of studies on it. It's like they actually feel like they know you, like because they've listened to you for so long. On YouTube, most of the people that are seeing your video are not your subscribers. They have no clue who you are. So a little bit of banter and you telling them like, hey, like, let me tell you a little bit about what happened this weekend. Your audio listeners are like, I'd love to hear that because Mark's my guy, like I know him. YouTubers are like, what is this guy talking about? I don't know who he is. Like you got to cut right to the chase. And so I think it requires a different style of content that, because podcasts, there's no real growth. Like, it's very hard to grow. And YouTube, you make a good video that YouTube loves. And even with 500 subscribers, you can get 1 million views. You make an amazing podcast episode with 500 subscribers and you might get 600 people listening to it. Like growth is so hard. So my advice to people is if you want to do YouTube and you want to succeed, which has a huge value because of that growth, right? If you make a podcast and you don't have a lot of listeners, it's hard to get more. If you make something amazing on YouTube, you can grow quickly, and that's awesome. I would think YouTube first. I would think, how can I record an interview that will work on YouTube? And how would I edit it? How would I do the introduction to it? All of that stuff. So if you go look at my old podcast intros, I started them with like, hello, welcome to All the Hacks. This is a show about this. I'm Chris. How are you guys doing today? Da, da. And now I'll start an episode off with like, do you know what it means to get audited by the IRS? Like, do you know what you need to do to avoid that? Like, and then I might say very quickly, I'm Chris. This is All the Hacks. I might very briefly mention who I am, and I'll jump straight into the content. And so I try to give the listener or the viewer, what are you going to get out of this video in the first 10 seconds? Versus on audio, I'm like, hey guys, like we've been here for 2 years. We've gotten to know each other. How are you doing? Like that vibe works well on audio. It does not work well on YouTube.
So it sounds like you're kind of morphing into more kind of like a YouTube first, like boom, straight into it. Because like when I think of YouTube, I'm thinking thumbnail for curiosity, title for clarity, and then the hook is the confirmation that you're in the right place. This is what you're going to get by the end of it.
Yes, but even doing that. So if you look at my last like 20 videos, I've done that. I've like worked with an agency to help me do better thumbnails, that written titles for YouTube, done hooks. I still look like I did this episode a few days ago on tax myths. It was a great episode. The audio did fantastic. YouTube 736 views with 20,000 subscribers. Like, why isn't that working? I don't know. Like, I haven't dug into the analytics, but it was an interview. It was a conversation. It was absolutely not a YouTube video about, if this was like made for YouTube. If you said, how do you do a video on not getting audited for YouTube? It would not be a 45-minute interview with a CPA. Like, if you just thought what YouTube videos do best on this topic, they're not long-form interviews. Like, and go search YouTube for the topic of whatever you're doing. The most successful videos are probably not long-form interviews. And if they are, they're probably done by people with millions and millions of followers who are, so far ahead. Like, you can't say that because Joe Rogan or, even now, like Chris Williamson, Diary of a CEO, like some of those guys, like just because they made a video that did well as an interview doesn't mean that you can.
Yeah, well, in those guys, this is something I've actually been finding on YouTube. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation. This is really interesting because, to your point, I can record like a solo, like at the end of this 10-minute video, you're going to learn how to do the thing, 10,000 views, 20,000 views, right? But it's very, very hard to have a quote unquote conversational type of podcast episode that takes off unless you're putting immense amount of resources into that video, right? So someone like Chris Williamson, like I don't know how much money he's spending on a studio, but he's got a 6 studio. His cameras are dope. He's traveling around. In addition, every episode is like a well-known person, a well-known name.
And he's focused on topics that are really, really zeitgeisty for people that are on YouTube. Like the average YouTube audience is lower income than podcasting. So if I'm making a video that's I went to this conference for high net worth investors and I made a video on it. Like, podcasting audience is more likely to be in that audience than YouTube audience. So I would consider my show to be a little bit more of like a 201, 301 than a 101 show. And so I'm not talking about, hey, here's how you pay off your first, student loan. We're talking about, how do you save for your kids' college? And not that those aren't both good topics to cover, but that's just not the top. Like, we each have our own niches, and that's the one I'm playing in. And so inherently, I know that less of those people are on YouTube. I think podcasting is like the medium with the highest household income of like, radio, TV, YouTube, all of them. So if you're trying to go to a place where your people are like, my audience is like 30 to 50 6-figure household income, there's just fewer of those people that are sitting around watching videos on YouTube. Like most people that are
maybe. But like they've just declared that the last election was the YouTube the podcast election, right? Because Trump was going on all these podcasts.
Not the YouTube election.
But they're all YouTube shows that he was going on. Granted, they're like the biggest shows in the world that he's going on. So it's like you said, if you've already got an immense amount of notoriety, immense amount of guests, momentum, I think it's easier to make that work. I do agree with you. I was just on a call earlier today with someone who's got a podcast on YouTube, right? It's an interview style. And we're just looking at it, and he's not getting tons of views. And he's like, well, what would you do? I'm like, well, there's little things you could do. Like you could change the tags here. And, maybe your title is not as dynamic as it could be. But I'm like, I wasn't 100% confident that if we tweak this, all of a sudden you're going to go from 50 views per episode to 5,000 views per episode. There's some magic, I think, that needs to be required and a lot of thought. One of the things I did notice, though, that I think you do differently than almost anyone I know that's putting podcasts on is you recorded a custom intro for this last video. So you've got the whole interview, but you recorded a custom intro saying like, this is what you're going to learn. This is what it's about.
I do that every time.
On. Highly edited as well. Lots of pattern interrupts, zooming in, zooming out. The guest speaker B-rolls. It was very well done.
So I do that, and I'll do it for 2 videos, both on similar financial topics, and one will get 50,000 views and one will get 600. So I haven't figured it out. The team I was working on thumbnails, they're like, maybe that thumbnail on the tax episode is the issue. And so they were like, let's come up with some new ones. Let's try it again. And I've run experiments where I A/B tested 2 thumbnails, and the metric that YouTube looks at is total watch time, right? Because if it gets more clicks, but people don't stick around, it's not good. But if it gets fewer clicks, but people stick around the whole time, that's actually maybe better. So they look at total watch time. And I compared 2 thumbnails, and one was like 67% of the watch time versus the other one. And then I took the one that performed better and I compared it with 2 other ones, and the other one was 67% better, which means that major differences in how well things can perform. And the ones I thought were going to do better were not the ones that performed better. So my wife and I have this running joke. They're like, the best thing to do for YouTube is the thing that you don't think will work, because every time we like A/B test something, the one we thought would work is the one that doesn't work as well. And you have to just keep testing. The best people are putting out like 20, 30 thumbnails and seeing which ones work and then picking those and changing the titles and experimenting quite a bit. And the way the algorithm ends up working, it's like if the video has really high engagement, they will promote it more. So you might, there might be a threshold, and I'm oversimplifying this, and I have no proprietary knowledge about how it actually works. But if YouTube says this is a video that someone that watches sticks around long enough that we can put ads in here and make money, we're going to show it to way more people. The difference between a great thumbnail and an okay thumbnail might be the difference between a video that YouTube thinks is worth promoting and not. And so it might look like it's doubling your traffic, but if you have 100 views, you double it, now you have 200. But the difference between how well it performs might not just be the difference between doubling your traffic. It might be whether YouTube throws it into the algorithm, and maybe at 10, 100, 1,000x is what's happening. So I think to do YouTube well, you really just need to say, I'm going to go all in on understanding YouTube. I'm going to experiment. I might, go see what the best people are doing, learn the analytics, try thumbnails, try different intros, try different hooks, maybe take a course or 2. If you're a podcast, I think the course Jay Klaus did, I don't make any money if you take it, but I watched it. Like, I thought it was pretty good, because it's like basically YouTube designed for podcasting, and go all in. But maybe you'll find, like I'm not ready to throw in the towel completely. Maybe your content, the audience you serve, the topics you cover just aren't built for YouTube, and you might get a better ROI taking your content and building out a newsletter, taking your audience and planning, retreats or masterminds in person around the world, or, taking the way you do X and turning that into an agency to do it for someone else. And so that's what I've been thinking about is, do I want to spend another 3 months focusing on YouTube, or do I want to take listeners on 3 more trips somewhere around the world next year? Or do I want to double down on the newsletter where I actually feel like it's working? I understand the mechanics of growth, and like I actually like the newsletters be like really exciting to me. And it feels like if I put in 3 months, I could 10x my return. And YouTube, it's like if I put in 3 months, I have like a 10% chance of 10xing and like a 90% chance of saying that was a failed experiment.
Interesting. But I want to actually talk about the newsletter here for a moment, because I think there's a lot of overlap between podcasting, newsletters, and YouTube. They all have their own science to them. Podcasting, I'm much less bullish on these days, the audio only, just because it's so hard to find new viewers. Whereas with your point, there's pros and cons with YouTube. I find that almost 75% of viewers, 80% are people that had never seen me or heard of me before. And that is insanely valuable if I can solve that problem that they have. Podcast is difficult because they don't know either of you. There's two different guests. But if I'm covering, like, for example, if I'm covering AI prompts every week or regularly, people are like, okay, Mark's going to teach me, help me elevate my AI prompt game. So I'm going to keep tuning in. But I will say that sometimes, to your point, it can be something so simple and so silly, like a word in the title. And then YouTube's like, oh, actually, everybody needs to see this. And I had a video that I produced. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago, very early into my video journey. I had a video on hiring a VA. It didn't do very well at first. I went in, I changed the title and a couple of small tweaks. All of a sudden, YouTube's like, okay, now it's great. And it to this date, it has almost 600,000 views on this one video, just by tweaking a couple small things. You know, I've never been able to replicate that success to that extent, but I have found that to be true time and time again. Going in, just changing up some titles, typically with titles, because titles are so easy to tweak. Tweak the title, boom, run with it and see what happens.
Yeah, I really like thumbnailtest.com, which lets you A/B test titles, because YouTube doesn't have an A/B test for titles. But I think my other problem is I'm very much like a systems thinker. Like, I want to understand a system and then execute on it. And YouTube, the system is like, try a bunch of stuff, but like, you can't system think your way into the thumbnail that will work or the title that will work. Even the best people that do this for a living, for the most elite YouTubers, their model is not I know best. It's I will experiment and find the answer. And it's just so inherently different than the way my brain likes to operate, which is like, what is the formula for doing a thing well? How does it work? And with YouTube, it's like, all bets are off. Just experiment and experiment differently every time. Like, the word you added for that one video is not the word you should add the next time. And in fact, maybe one time it was a longer title and the next time the shorter one does better. And maybe it's a video with a thumbnail with your face, and then the next time your face performs worse. It's like, I can't make sense of it. And I think that drives me nuts as just a human, like that. But some people thrive on it. They're like, oh, that means I don't need to know anything. That means I just need to experiment. And you know, they could just brute force their way in. So
it is very difficult to replicate. And I agree that a lot of times it just takes, I'm just going to keep tweaking this title and tweaking this YouTube video until it takes off. And eventually, like, okay, this one's just not going to get there. I'll focus on the next one. It is difficult to replicate. Speaking of systems, you did mention you're very excited about your newsletter right now. I do want to kind of hear some feedback on that. I kind of put this newsletter on pause. I had an AI newsletter. It's called AI Update. It's got 5,000 subscribers on it. It was going pretty well, but I was just like, I can't focus all my time. But I want to talk to you about what you're doing and why you're so excited about it. So tell me, what's your newsletter? Why are you so excited about it right now?
So the newsletter, you could think of it as like a companion. So all the content I make is about how to optimize your life and your money, your travel. And so one of the things podcasts and YouTube don't do well is timely content, because it takes time to record and edit and publish. But there are all these things happening, whether it's an interesting article, a deal, or whatnot that I want to share. So the newsletter has a different value prop. The thing that I'm really excited about with newsletters is, one, that you just get so much data. With a podcast, you're like, I know how many downloads I got. With a newsletter, I know how many people opened, how many people clicked, what people clicked. I can start to tag all the people that clicked certain things. I can send a newsletter that, for people who've clicked links to credit cards in the past, has content about credit cards, and for people who are international, doesn't, because, you know, they can't apply for US credit cards. There's just so much you can do. And then, you know, you can set up sequences. So a new person subscribes, send them these 5 or 6 emails over the course of 2 weeks. And if you have products or services to sell, you know, I wouldn't encourage people to just only create a newsletter to sell stuff, but it's totally fine to include stuff you sell, you know, in the process. So if you can say, wow, every time I have a new subscriber, 1 in 100 of them sign up for my product X that makes me $200. So that means I'm going to make $2 every time someone signs up. Well, now I can go and run ads on Facebook or Instagram. I can go use some kind of creator growth platforms. And if I can get the cost to acquire a new subscriber under $2, and I know that 1 in 100 of them make $2, then, or make $200, well, then I could just go spend an unlimited amount of money growing the newsletter, and I can monitor those, metrics in real time, or at least pretty quickly, to know whether new channels are bringing in people that buy my product at a higher rate or a lower rate. It's just like, there's just so much data there, and you have a direct line to communicate with people. It's amazing. So for example, we ran a trip to Iceland. We took 16 people to Iceland last year, and we've talked about Iceland in the newsletter 3 or 4 times. I can go back and find every person that ever clicked a link, watched the video we sent of the trailer of Iceland, and say, hey, we're going to do a trip next year. And they don't need to know that I'm emailing them because they clicked a link. I could just say, hey, but I can ignore sending this to all the other people. Maybe all the other people just get a call out in a regular newsletter that says, hey, we're taking a trip to Iceland if you're interested. But I can put this giant banner at the top only for people who've shown interest in the past. Or for everyone that's ever clicked, sometimes I set up something on intro.co where it's a easy way to book time to schedule a consulting call with me. I could say anyone who's ever clicked a link, I could put a promo and say, hey, this week I'm going to do 20% off. But I don't have to show it to everyone. I can just show it to the people that have shown interest in the past. And so if you really start to dial this in, and you can figure out what do I generate in revenue from a new subscriber in the first 30 days, and if that number is greater than it costs to acquire a subscriber, I can just go buy new subscribers. YouTube podcasts, you don't get any of this data. On YouTube, right. All I know is I know some engagement data, how long they watch, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're clicking the link in my description. I don't know their name. I don't know anything. So it's wild to look at email as a platform where you have direct line of communication with people and you get so much more information. And so, you can use things like Write Message, and you can tweak your website based on what people in your email are doing. I don't know. That to me as a data junkie is really exciting because there's just so much you can do.
I started my entrepreneurial journey specifically in podcasting, but the data is so bad. It's so difficult to make any judgments because what you can measure, you can improve. And I've become more and more excited about email marketing, newsletters because of that reason. What do you use for your host, your newsletter host? What's your tech stack?
ConvertKit, or now it's called Kit. I'd encourage people to go to allthehacks.com/deals and use my affiliate link if you want to sign up for ConvertKit. As a thank you, send me an email and I'm happy to give you some thoughts on newsletter growth in return. But yeah, it just does a lot more, custom templates for every send, lots of stuff. I think when I first saw it, I was like, this is way more expensive than a lot of other email platforms. And then I was like, oh, but you can sell stuff on ConvertKit and you can see who's buying and you can track, you could just, when you realize that it's a full on email sales automation platform, you're like, oh, wow, if this could generate me revenue, then I can't really fairly compare it to this other thing that just sends emails. And so I think now for under 10,000 subscribers, I think it's free. So it's go play with it, see how it works. And then I was just blown away at the amount of information I can get and what I can do with it. And I don't know. It's I get all this, I can see attribution. I can see this person clicked a link about this thing. And, if I had an e-commerce site, I could close the loop on, and then they bought. And so I don't know. That's got me excited because I've been so sick of podcasting where I know exactly how many downloads I get a week. And I don't know if I have, let's just say that number for someone is 10,000. You don't know if you have 10,000 people that listen every week, 100,000 people that listen every 10 weeks, 50,000 people that listen every 5 weeks. You have no clue what's going on. And so I think that's a little wild.
So when you're using, guys, I know we got guys, girls, I know we got to let Chris go here, but I'm just gonna try to milk as much value out of him as possible because this is just this might be one of my favorite interviews of the year, actually, Chris. I'm glad I chose you to be on here. Which, by the way, y'all, I have this entire system built out. So because I get so many requests that people get filtered through, And originally I was like, hey, Chris, we'll do a swap cast. He's like, I'm talking about something different than you're kind of specializing in. And I said, all right, that's fine. Come on, because I see what you're doing. You look legit. You're doing the right things. You're saying the right things. So I'm very careful about who I bring on. So
that's good.
I did.
We didn't talk about that earlier, but I think when it comes to brands you partner with and when it comes to guests you have, like once you lose the credibility of the people that are listening, like it's so hard to build back. And so one thing that I talk to a lot of creators and business owners, it's like they forget that if they sacrifice the quality of the content or they sacrifice the brands they work with, they're not just potentially losing out on that episode. They might be diminishing the trust of their audience. And that, if you have low trust, maybe that makes it harder for you to do another deal in the future, or the performance of that deal goes down. Like we charge almost a 2x kind of price per download for our ads. And I think that's truly because we only work with brands that I use. And so every ad is like, here's a brand I use. 50% of them I reached out to directly because I wanted to work with them and they'd never worked with a podcast before. And I think that that's something that you can't put a price on, because without it, I would make a third less money on the entire thing. And so next year, I was actually thinking about content and I was like, gosh, I don't know if I have 52 things that I want to talk about. And instead of finding 35 things I want to talk about and like 17 other things that are okay, I'd rather just do the podcast, 70% of the weeks, right? Like I think I'm going to do 3 on, 1 off, because I want to make sure that every episode is awesome. And at the expense of not being out every week and cutting into ad revenue because we have less episodes, I'd rather do that than potentially put out content that isn't excellent. And obviously you guys will listen to the show and be like, some of this isn't excellent and we all have our misses. But like my goal is to set a high bar, and I'd rather make less money than lower the bar, because I think in the long run, it'll be a much better play.
Yeah. Well, I had a really great interview with a guy locally who exited a high 7-figure marketing agency. Conversation was great, very valuable. A lot of what we're talking about here today, but we had a mic problem and the audio was not good. I was like, I love you, bro, but we're gonna have to re-record this. He's coming back tomorrow. We're gonna re-record it. Yeah. You
will be surprised. Here's my fix. If you think someone's audio might be bad, so I did an episode with David Chang. He's like a chef in New York. He has a restaurant called Momofuku, and his computer ran out of storage space. So in the interview, it couldn't keep recording, and so we switched to just the iPhone like voice memo. I was like, let's keep going. We'll do iPhone voice memo, and my editor was like, the iPhone voice memo was better than his computer mic, like when we were doing the first half. So I would say, like, as a backup in a pinch, iPhone voice memos and probably a new Android phone as well are surprisingly good. Wow. Obviously, I'd rather have a quality microphone, but if you need something as a pinch and a backup, I was surprised.
Wow, great hack. Well, one more question, guys. I'm going to get in one more question. All right, one more question. When you're, I'm assuming that you mentioned one thing you like about newsletters is you're able to be very topical, very trending, very quickly. It doesn't require all the editing and production on the back end. Are you taking the newsletter, taking the data, taking those stories, and then taking kind of like the best and then recording on that specifically for YouTube, for podcasts? Is that how you're setting that up, or is it kind of separate as far as the way that you're? I would say it's very
separate. The newsletter is like, here's a curated list of all of the deals and interesting stuff. And going back to last week's newsletter is probably 50% relevant. Going to last month's newsletter is probably 10% relevant. Going back to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the podcast, just as maybe not just, but 90% relevant. And 50% of the episodes are as relevant today as they were 2 years ago. And so I'm trying to think about content medium fit. And like a newsletter is not a great thing for evergreen content. People don't go find old newsletters from 3 years ago and reread them. They might do that with a blog post, but podcasts and YouTube videos, like half the YouTube videos I watch, if I go search for something, I don't know, unless it's a current event, it doesn't matter if it's 3 years old, 10 years old, or, produced yesterday. But for the podcast, so podcast, YouTube by proxy, I'm like, let's create content that's relevant for years. Newsletter, let's create content that's relevant today.
How often are you sending it out?
Newsletters once a week. Podcast is once a week, but might be 3 on, 1 off next year. The other challenge, and then the other challenge is on the podcast, I have new people coming, and the number one email I get is, hey, you should do an episode on insert topic that I've done an episode on. And so it's really challenging to figure out what to do because people who've listened for 2 years, they don't want to hear the same episode that I did 2 years ago. But new listeners have never heard it and they want to hear it. And so I might, on that 1 week off, replay a really good old episode and just tell existing listeners, hey, every 4th week, it's going to be an old episode. You're welcome to skip, but there's a lot of new people here that haven't heard everything in the back catalog, and I want to replay the hits. And if you've been listening for a while, you'll probably learn something because every time I re-listen to my own episodes, I learn something. That might be because I'm, so focused on interviewing that I miss things, but we try to drop a lot of tactics. Like I get emails from listeners that are like, I took 8 pages of notes on this episode. So
wow,
I'm pretty sure you'll pick something up every time you listen.
That's cool. And I have a friend who's working with Hormozy and Hormozy's podcast, and he's looking at, I don't know about Hormozy, but my friend Seth, who has this agency, is looking at leveraging AI and AI transcripts to build this vast database so that if someone said, hey, why don't you talk about this? You could say, hey, check out this AI GPT, this AI chatbot. It'll give you tips and reference those episodes. He hasn't streamlined it yet, but I think that might be a solution when you have this huge book, huge bank.
I think the future of this, and this is a whole nother episode, I've thought a lot about this because I'm trying to prepare for it. You will listen to podcasts, I think, in 1 to 2 years, and you will be able to interrupt the podcast and ask questions yourself and get real-time answers in any language based on the corpus of knowledge that is in that podcast history. And so the most important 2 things I think people can do until then is build a massive brand, because in a world where you can customize podcasts to whatever you want, it's going to be even harder to grow as a new entrant. And then 2, have a bunch of proprietary knowledge. So whether that's primary research, whether that's access to unique guests, but like if your whole podcast is interviewing people on that go on book tours and there's 100 people that have had the same interview, that content is going to be a dime a dozen and it's not going to be unique. But if you're finding people, I haven't done a podcast ever where I talked about YouTube growth. So like, you're finding something that doesn't really exist anywhere else. If you keep doing that, then your AI podcast where you're not even recording it, people are just, listening to a topic, will have primary knowledge that you can't get anywhere else. And I think that will be your brand, and that proprietary knowledge is going to be the value, as opposed to today, the value is, you created an interview. In the future, maybe you're not even creating it. You're using licensing your voice to a LLM that's creating content personalized to every listener, using proprietary knowledge that you and past episodes and all that. It's going to be wild. I'm excited.
Cool prediction. And I agree with it. Chris, thanks for joining the show. Where's the best place for us to find you?
The show's called All the Hacks. You can find it anywhere. Everything else is on our website. It's chrishutchins.com, allthehacks.com. They redirect to the same place.
Allthehacks.com. Y'all can tell he's legit. I don't need to sell him anymore. Chris, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.